Hurricane Sandy hammered the Bahamas early Friday after leaving 21 dead across the Caribbean. Some are calling it a superstorm. What is that all about?
As this storm moves farther north, it will expand. It's just really moving into a question of where.
Please listen to what your state and local officials are saying. When they tell you to evacuate, you need to evacuate.
This is just unbelievable. We're downtown by the towers.
An explosion at a utility company substation plunged much of lower Manhattan into darkness. The incredible record-setting 14-foot storm surge hit like a liquid fist. Black roads became black rivers, trapping those left behind.
That night, it was mainly just trying to communicate to the people that if their house is starting to fill up with water, that definitely meant that outside it was even worse.
Downtown, the wind ripped the entire facade off this building, exposing the apartments inside like a dollhouse.
I wasn't expecting anything really. Just thought that the storm wasn't even going to be that big of a deal.
Oh my God!
Oh wait. Our tree!
Our tree! It hit your car! Oh my God! Oh my God!
It hit my car!
Oh, my car!
The East Coast reeling this morning as it absorbs the aftermath of Superstorm Sandy, where economic damages could be in the range of 10 to 20 billion. At least 30 people have been killed in 7 states. More than 8 million homes are without power.
I grew up here. This is absolutely sickening. This is memories and generations just washed away.
We all remember the Occupy Wall Street movement. We covered them here a lot. Just about everybody formed their own opinion about the protesters and their cause. Whatever you think of their agenda and them, they've reformed now into Occupy Sandy. They're redirecting their energy into helping hurricane victims from the Jersey Shore to Long Island Sound.
People just couldn't believe that this had come together. It was a completely people-powered event.
And I was just overwhelmed. And I mean, literally overwhelmed. I mean, people came in a couple of hours, the whole operations began taking shape.
We weren't really sure what was going to happen. We thought probably the lower parish hall would be enough space, and that if we needed a little bit more, we could use the front hallway or perhaps stack things at the back of church. Within 2.5 days, we were so overwhelmed with both donors and donations that we had to expand into basically the entire church building.
We live in a jaded age, a cynical period that, it's like people are so doubtful and questioning of other people wanting to help, and yet here thousands of people came through our front doors wanting to help. I mean, as a priest, that's an amazing thing to witness. As a Christian, that is the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Occupy Sandy was a unique response to the storm. It was a remarkable response, one that was recognized by traditional first responders like the Red Cross and even the National Guard, who were amazed at the way that that group came together and got what was really needed immediately and efficiently to the communities. So I think as part of our walking with people, rather than just coming in saying this is the way we're going to do it, we could really see that these were the people who knew what we were doing, and it made sense for us to join forces with them.
The night of the storm, we increased our staffing levels. Our CEO at that time and chief medical officers and many senior nursing and physician leaders and hospital executives stayed in the hospital throughout the night when the eye of the storm actually hit this region.
We realized that we're a community that sits in between the bay and the ocean, and we have to be ready. We put an alert on our intranet to just advise the staff to get prepared and prepare yourself at home. And when you come to work, possibly be prepared to stay.
There are so many stories of staff who just performed incredibly. The night of the hurricane, for example, there's a little boy who shot, and a surgeon was on his way in and got flooded out, and his car was in under 4 or 5 feet of water, and we got to get another surgeon in. Many of our staff live on the Rockaways. Staff whose homes themselves have been roofs caved in because of falling branches. Staff who've lost their homes either in the fire at Bell Harbor.
After the storm, the staff came to realize some of them had no homes to go back to, and yet they stayed here for days and days on end. When a place like this prepares for an emergency, we think about 24 to 72 hours to be on our own. Well, we were on generator power for over 3 weeks, and we were really on our own for weeks and weeks on end. When we started to evacuate the medically fragile to city medical shelters, what we discovered is the city medical shelters didn't have medical staff, or they weren't handicap accessible, or they had no medication. So that all of those folks we sent out got sent back to us. It took a full 2 weeks for us to empty out our ambulatory care centers of these folks, and to this day, we've seen no money from the state or federal government by way of reimbursing us for Hurricane Sandy. Unlike other hospitals, we have to serve everyone who comes through our door, whether they can pay or not pay. Our medically underserved look like people who are elderly, people with chronic mental illness, people with addiction issues, who have health care issues on top of those other concerns. And we serve and take care of them all. I'm the guardian of the mission of this place. And what that means is I remind us to not just provide health care, but to provide health care people can have faith in.
One of the greatest gifts in this Sunday experience is the gift of service and servanthood. It's made, I think, life richer for this congregation to realize it's not just a place we meet to pray and to sing, but to open our doors and step outside and serve. We received a call from the mayor of Freeport asking for volunteers from the different churches to house those who were displaced by the hurricane. So after several days of just sitting waiting to offer assistance, the mayor contacted us again and asked us if we would be interested in housing the Southern Baptist Relief Team who were coming to assist. And we were happy to do so. They spent several months here, and those who needed assistance from all over the island, not just Freeport, would call the church or their number directly. And once we make contact with them, the team members will go and do what was required of them. In addition to that, we had the gift of from a benefactor who offered us, through the mayor again, $160,000. She had called and asked him if he can recommend a church or clergy person whom she can give that money to. Someone who is trustworthy, according to her. So she said she researched the church and decided to give it to us. We were able to help about 17 or 18 families. Our doors will always be opened again to serve should the need arise.
The Church of St. Philip and St. James was very fortunate in that our properties here suffered very minor damage in comparison with the devastation that was worked in other areas. The people here gathered food and clothing and some bedding to send off to Holy Trinity Valley Stream. And we also prepared to receive people here in our buildings for sleeping, for preparing food, and any other thing that was needed. Because of our distance from the worst hit areas, however, that was not very practical. When I came into church one morning, however, I found 2 trucks parked outside where people from out of state who had come to work on the telephone and the electrical lines were trying to sleep, and discovered that the real ministry that we could have, and a significant one, was to give them some welcome. We offered them the area to come in, get warm. We had not lost any power or heat, so they could recharge their laptops and any other electronics that they had. They could make coffee and tea. They could spend some time here, use our bathrooms to wash up. One of the also nice things was, because I have 2 dogs, those who had left their pets behind were able to have some quality time with my pit bull and my little poodle. I'm very glad that this parish, St. Philip and St. James, was here and was able to respond and offer the kind of ministry that God wanted us to give at this time. It was very fulfilling for us as well.
We at St. James became a collection center, collecting food, water, toiletries, and other items that were needed. There were other churches throughout the Archdeaconry and throughout the diocese that served as collection agencies. It was just an amazing collection effort to gather items and to distribute it to where the need was. That was just the beginning, because the work of recovery is still needed, and we're still working to be that healing presence in the community.
I've been visiting some of the sites in our diocese where our groups have been working on Sandy relief. I'm here at Mastic Beach and was just helping put some insulation in the house. Here at Mastic Beach, it kind of shows the approach we've taken as a diocese in these areas. It's radically different from what a social service agency would normally do. So normally we would come and say, these are the services we provide and these are our skill sets. This is what we're going to do for you. Or there's funding here, we're going to go for funding, and that's what we can do for you. Here in Mastic, and I would say even the Rockaways, we've taken a more, I think, contemplative approach. We've come and we've said to the people who are here in the community actually doing the work from the beginning of the crisis, what are you doing? What's working? Is there a way we can walk with you and help you? So we're really taking our cues from the people here in the community, and it's a radically different approach. It's harder, it's more difficult, it's sometimes frustrating, it might look a little chaotic at times. It's hard to quantify what's happening. Convening people from various community groups will work with whoever will work with us. So here at the Jubilee Center in Mastic Beach, Catholic Charities is in our office, Adelante, the Spanish group, there's Evangelical group, Youth for Christ, working out here. We have the Columbiettes from the Knights of Columbus cooking meals. So it's a new way for us as an institution to do ministry. Much has happened in New Orleans with Katrina. Here on the island, it revealed already existing imbalances. So the Rockaways, another tremendously impacted area where for years our diocese has chosen to stay with the hospital because of the need there of the poor and to serve the poor. Now with our Jubilee Center, we're also reaching out in other areas of service in the Rockaways. You can find these areas in Freeport, in Lindenhurst, go right across the island. It seems as though areas of Patchogue, East Patchogue, Bellport out here, that the storm really does lay bare already existing imbalances in the social net and the gaps that are in the social net.
It is the mission of our church to be in those places where not many organizations or individuals go to. So our task from the beginning has been really filling up those gaps where people are ignored. So here in the Rockaways and some other places in the diocese, we see that the undocumented immigrants have been really hit hard. And they are invisible. They are invisible in the politically, but also socially in many ways. They have been put aside. Our diocese has been making a concerted effort to really empower them, identify them, and really walk with them. We are doing so by not just from the top down, not just by giving out resources, but basically together with them becoming organized into unity so that we can fight for our rights, for their rights, and for their well-being.
Juan Carlos Ruiz de Dios was actively involved from the beginning to the response to Sandy through the faith community at St. Jacobi Lutheran Church, and worked hand in hand with our ministers and people at St. Luke and St. Matthew. When we were looking for someone who would help us institutionally respond to relief and recovery efforts throughout our diocese, Juan Carlos possessed both the faith and the sense of church and the need for the church to be present in these places, and also some of the passion and enthusiasm and methodology that was there with Occupy Sandy. So it was a way for us to quickly kind of get on board and again be present in a new way that maybe we might not have been able to without the presence of people like Juan Carlos.
Here at the Jubilee Center in Rockaway, we've been, this Cornaga place has been the main hub after the second day. When Diego, one of our organizers, came and began identifying some local people to really respond to the devastation around us. And the Rockaways historically has been a neglected spot. It's still part of New York City, but it's in paper basically, because there is not much of a presence, nor politically nor socially.
The Episcopal Diocese was a very key connection, a very key ally, a very strong part of the recovery post-hurricane. Not only just the churches in Brooklyn themselves that opened themselves up to cook in for thousands of meals every day, not just for the community, but also for the volunteers that were living out here and were, providing this sort of help and organizing that needed to happen on the ground, but also just for that stability. I mean, we didn't even have electricity out here, and there needs to be a stable area, safe space where people can go, and that people trusted to drop materials off to. They trusted a church, and were able to leave their stuff there and know that it was going to come to the community because they trusted the name and they trusted the process that was set down. I do think that ever since my encounters with Juan Carlos and Father Charles, and understanding how their support was very easy for them. They were just like, what is needed? Let's just move forward. And that they made it possible for someone like myself to continue doing the work that I was already doing. I came out here just ready to serve. And when it came down to it, there was always more resources that were needed. We have, entire areas that were completely destroyed, that was called the bungalows, where the water came all the way, to your chest, and where we had undocumented families living there who had nowhere to go afterwards, and who worked with this church in particular, with the Jubilee Center, not only for resources, but there was people living in the basement even months afterwards. And people, and there was collecting of funds, and there was ways to get people to other family members, but you'll see entire roads that are just completely gone now. You also have an insane amount of open land on the beach. Developers are looking at and saying, oh, this is going to be perfect for luxury housing. That's not necessarily what the community is asking for. The community still has a lot of things that it needs to rebuild itself. Luxury housing is not on the top of the list.
Welcome to St. Andrews. We're in Mastic Beach, here on the south shore of Long Island. It's a little peninsula that juts out toward Fire Island, and it was a sleepy, quiet community until Sandy broke in on us last year. When the word got out that we would allow people to come and have food here, other resources came. The whole back of this church was filled with coats and blankets. People were coming in during service to get ready to have something to eat. They would come along the side aisle, work their way very quietly back, gather up what they needed, maybe light a candle, and slip out of the church taking what they needed for their help. What I do every week up at that altar is what gives me the strength to do it. That's not just hors d'oeuvres we're handing out. That's the body and blood of Jesus. That's life-giving.
I'm employed, I'm an electrician by trade, and at the time, as a lot of people were out of power, their services were taken off the sides of their house. They had no heat, and I was also going around helping homeowners with trying to make sure that electricity was safe, trying to get people's electricity back to them. I would work during the day, and then the second I got off, I would come out here and we'd all get together and we'd all meet up and we'd all go into the community and just push for as long and as hard as we could. There were times when we wouldn't get back in the house till 4 in the morning, get a couple hours of sleep, and we would go back and do it all over again. We went and did a rapid assessment of the community to find out what the need was. At that point, that's how we kind of formed we called it our COAD. There was a COAD in the community. I've always been a giving person. I've always wanted to give to others, and that's kind of been an upbringing of mine. I've just wanted to give back, so I had thought that it would just be a couple-hour thing of going and helping somebody. And when I saw the devastation, it was more than just a couple-hour thing. It turned into several days, which turned into weeks, which turned into months. As a site coordinator, I've been coordinating various different things. We go from assessing what a homeowner would need up to coordinating projects, which can be as big as rehabbing a home.
All right, so basically what you see here on the walls and stuff like that, this is a standard FEMA. It's like kind of rip and replace kind of deal. They take the insulation out 4 foot down if there was insulation, especially around the outside walls, and then all the sheetrock.
We've been getting our local contractors in the area together, and they help our youth group, and they'll teach them how to cut drywall and hang it, how to insulate a home.
So we'll have a cutter, and we'll have a person measuring and then installing.
I want to cut. After Sandy, I connected with my colleague who's the diocesan youth minister in the Diocese of New Jersey, and we both were feeling like our youth, our families, our parishioners were suffering from the effects of Sandy in different ways. We thought that we would try to do 2 mission trips. So we invited them to Camp DeWolf, and we had a group of young people actually from Philadelphia, from New York, and from New Jersey, and we did recovery work in Mastic Beach. We also worked at the Poospatuck Reservation and the Shinnecock Reservation, and so the impact for them was, I think, very significant.
In December, I was laid off from the town of Brookhaven. After doing all that you would think was the best thing that someone could do for their community, it didn't matter. Elizabeth Smith came to the reservation and she spoke to Veronica and my aunt and had asked, was there anyone that needed assistance that was affected by Sandy? And I said, well, I was affected and so was my parents and a few of my relatives.
If you look now, as you can see, the water's pretty high now.
Some volunteers came and we just threw out everything. All of this was all underwater. I don't really like talking about it that much. Well, hello, this is my wife.
We didn't get hit as hard as other places did, and I was grateful for that. But I don't know, I've been here all my life, and I've never seen it like this before.
How I came to work here was Elizabeth Smith, who was the site coordinator beforehand, she wanted to pursue her education. And then she texted me one night, and she says, "Would you like a job?" And I was like, "Okay, what do I be doing?" And she says, "Working here at the Jubilee Center." So I was like, "Sure." So she was like, they had already thought about me before I was even approached. And they thought that would be good with all my education and experience. So I started in August, and then it's been uphill from there.
We ended up kind of merging our co-ed with the Episcopal Community Services and teaming together to form what we call now the Jubilee Center. And then at that point, what we do now is all of our donations and all of our paperwork it goes through the Episcopal Community Services, where they do our record keeping and they do our bookkeeping, and they upkeep our donations and keep track of all the paperwork to keep it in line. So this way everything is kind of on the up and up. And then we have my wife, Victoria.
Personally, I got involved because my sister was affected by Sandy. And once we saw the devastation that happened in her neighborhood, my husband and I said, we have to do something. We were not affected. We didn't have any damage. So for us to be able to put our heads down on our pillows at night and say, we're okay, we had to do something. We started just knocking on people's doors that were affected and saying, what do you need? What can I get for you? And a lot of their answers was food. So we'd go to the store and I would cook dinner in my kitchen for 50, 60 people. And we would just go out and knock on doors in the neighborhood and say, I have some hot food, do you need it? And a lot of them would say, yeah. So we would be feeding for a good 2 weeks. We fed about 50 people and their families with their kids. And then just a group of us realized that we were all doing the same thing. So we came together, and that's how this started. We are really the only group out here on the east end of the island that's really doing the work in Mastic Beach, Shirley, Mastic. I would hope that the people that come in from out of the community come to help here because we are an impoverished community. So those are the people that we as a community center are trying to help because we don't want them to be left behind. Mother Mary is very nice to open her doors to us, and we were feeding hot meals to at least 100 families every weekend.
They come in and there's families, all these different types of people, and we serve them right outside. And they just say to us, like, God bless you, thank you so much for what you do and everything.
We are upgrading our kitchen. The first step to us redoing our kitchen is to clean out our cabinets and store our plates and everything away in order to start the construction on the kitchen.
I want to major in mechanical engineering when I go to college, so I never really thought I'd be doing volunteer work. But I was thinking about maybe traveling around the world helping people.
We're in the neighborhood of Red Hook, which has a lot of low-income residents, one of the largest housing developments, I think, in the country. And we have a house here, a typical row house, and we're going to go inside and take a look at what's been going on here.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Jean. Have not seen you in a long time.
Nice
Good to see you.
We're at the home of Jean and Clyde, and we've been working on this house since shortly after Hurricane Sandy hit.
Jean and Clyde lived here in Red Hook for years, and when the storm came in last year, this entire basement area was flooded.
This level was totally devastated.
The walls, the floor,
the wood,
all the
bricks.
furniture had to go out. Clyde is now fairly disabled, so the goal is to clean up this ground floor apartment to make it wheelchair accessible so that the two of them can come back and live here together.
We call for volunteers, and we've been trying to send a work crew here every Saturday since Sandy hit. And we accept anybody who wants to come, and whether they're members of the church or they heard about it, and whatever skill level they're at, we figure out how to match whatever skills they have. At church, we have a couple of people that have skills, including my spouse, Martin, and our friend Tom Pace.
Grace, working with neighbors, has come in and done everything from restoring the garden in the back of the house, gutting it, and doing all of the work that you see at the present time.
It was terrible. God bless these people that they came here.
I listened to sermons in church or read passages from the Bible. One of the things that we are told to do is help those who are less fortunate than we are. We found that even if all we did was touch one life, we were making a difference.
We know it's a lot of hard work, but we try to have fun.
It makes us feel good to help people that need it.